go.
Call the work session of the Goodyear City Council to order.
Goodies in here. Oh, jeez.
The mayor, obviously, Mayor Kavanaugh and Councilmember Lord, again, are excused. We don't need a vote, as it is a work session. We've got 4 items on the agenda tonight for this work session, so I imagine it could get lengthy, so if y'all on the council can give me looks if we're done with that. If we're done with a particular conversation, just let me know and we'll move on to the next. But real quick, I know in typical meetings we have communication items, and I'd hold it till the end so everybody's here, but congratulations to Joanne and her family, again, for getting Family of the Year at the YMCA. She was a very good. As most of you know, Joanne missed the meeting last week to attend a YMCA function honoring her family and a few others, I believe. It's a work session meeting is for discussion only. No action can or will be taken by the council. First item, 3A, is tonight is we'll be receiving a presentation on the East Las Vegas Cultural Center. I believe Connie Stepnitz will be introducing this item for us.
Thank you. Good evening, Vice Mayor, council members. I'm pleased to bring a guest speaker tonight. Councilmember Lord and I saw a presentation this summer at the America for the Arts conference in Las Vegas, and she asked that I bring this presentation to the council to give you an idea of what a successful multi-generational center looks like. Tonight I'd like to give you a little bit of background information on our guest speaker. I did leave her bio on your desk. We bring Bobby Ann Howell from Las Vegas, Nevada. She is a native from Nevada. However, she attended Abilene Christian College in Texas to get her bachelor's in fine arts, and she went on to get her master's in sculpture and drawing from the Southern Illinois University. She is an adjunct faculty member at UNLV and the College of Southern Nevada, where she's been teaching since 1988. Her background in art includes sculpture, foundry, and design, and she does have a studio in Las Vegas. While she was the museum manager and the arts education coordinator for the Rio Casino in Las Vegas, she oversaw an exhibit from Russia, from St. Petersburg, Peter the Great. They brought in artifacts from the Peterhof Museum in St. Petersburg, where over 14,000 students were educated and over 350,000 visitors actually saw the exhibit. She currently is the the coordinator for the East Las Vegas Community Multi-Gen Senior Center. There she oversees some dual programs, one in facilitating the community senior, cultural, and arts programs. I'd like to bring her to the podium so that she can give you her presentation. Bobby Ann?
Thank you very much.
Bobby Ann?
Bobby Ann, yes.
Thank you for making the trip down here from Las Vegas.
Oh, it's been my great pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Councilmember Lord sends her wishes, but obviously she had a wedding and some family stuff to attend to.
Well, she saw the 2-minute version at the Americans for the Arts Conference. So.
Hopefully she's watching.
Hopefully. So thank you so much for bringing me here. It's been a great pleasure this morning. Your staff has been wonderful, and it's been a pleasure to see your city again. I just have a slide presentation. It kind of just runs through images, and I'll just talk while the images are going, so I know your time is important. And of course, we're very proud of our center and the variety of things that happen there. I do work for the City of Las Vegas. It's in the Department of Leisure Services, and I am in the Arts and Community Events Division. My facility is one of only 2 that have dual programming in them, the senior programming and the arts programming. So our building is used Monday through Saturday from 9 to 9, unless we have an event, and it could be 9 a.m. to 1 a.m., depending on what the event is, a concert or something. So we get a lot of use out of our building. And as we take off, kind of just asked me to give you a little bit about the reasons why our city is involved in the arts. Our mayor is very supportive of the arts. As you know, we're also a growing community, and getting people to become part of that community is one of our main goals. And at our center, trying to keep various cultures, arts, family events, all those kind of things that will bring people together and have a buy-in to our community. We have a lot of shift work, as you can imagine, so trying to find things that you can do as a family or that you're interested in doing outside your job is always a challenge, and we're always looking to help provide that and get people involved in what's happening in their local community and just become members. And we have a large population that's been there for their whole life, like myself, and as you know, every day, new people coming in, trying to find that sense of place. So that's what we've been working on. And I'm going to kind of just start. The slides can just start. I don't know if I have to push anything.
I think you just push the right arrow there, and it'll advance along as you're talking.
That should just be set to kind of go. We have a beautiful 40,000 square foot facility. It's near downtown Las Vegas. It's a kind of Spanish hacienda style. And the other thing our patrons love is that it is a beautiful building. Our seniors enjoy it because we have a lot of light, a lot of open spaces. It's all on one level, so we have great accessibility for a variety of different things that happen in our building. I'm just down the hall from City Hall, so many functions also take place at my facility. This weekend we have the Nevada Center for the Blind having a conference, and that's a picture of them last year visiting us. We have an art collection. Our gallery space is all throughout the lobby of our area, so as you visit it, you also are in our gallery. We have an outdoor gazebo area where we have concerts, performances, festivals, all kinds of different things. I have a wonderful staff. I'm very privileged to be able to work with some wonderful professionals. So as you endeavor to think about community centers, cultural centers, don't forget that the people who program and have passion for this work are what will make it happen. There are 3 of us that work in the arts department and 3 that work in my senior programming. And we work very much together on just trying to create a great place for people to come, and we're very privileged to be able to do that. In my facility, we have some general purpose rooms, multi-purpose room, a library, and we also have designated art facilities as our ceramic studio, music studio, dance studio. I have a large ballroom that is used from everything from we're getting ready for our Halloween festival, where we'll have about 3,500 goblins visit us, and then 3 days later we'll be having a senior lunch for the councilmen at our facility. So all different kinds of things happen at my building, our building, so we're always trying to keep it busy. You can see we have a lot of different ages. Even though our title is Community Senior Center, you can be 5 years old to 99 plus and find something to do or do it together. I work with our senior division on many programs that we have together. Our guitar students, beginning class is age 7 to 99 plus. This is our music studio. We couldn't do the work without our instructors. We have many people in our community who have a lot to offer. Our instructors are part-time city employees who come to us if they have an idea to share. Our music and arts instructors are professionals so that they have a high quality of instruction. We have right now just under 100 new beginning guitar students, and we're hoping to have a guitar festival next season of over 100 and invite everyone in town to come out for a large guitar festival, and that's kind of the brainchild of our music instructors. We like to give an opportunity for our community to come and dream about what it is they want to present or share that they might know. I'm in a predominantly Latino section of town, although we have every possible ethnic group living in Las Vegas and at most of our events, but we have a large mariachi and rondalla guitar program to interest the community. Our trumpet, flute, jazz, piano, if you're interested, we'll try to find a way. We do artist workshops where we bring in master artists to show particular types of art forms to share with the community. Sometimes those happen quarterly, or outside artists. So we're always searching, always looking. It's part of our budget. We also have a performance venue in our ballroom, which we turn into a performance venue, a dance venue, a carnival venue, just depending upon what we need. We have a very active weaving studio. We have 14 looms going all the time with a wonderful instructor of all ages. We just had in this session some young girls come and start weaving, and it's great to see them in there working. Also, the city has a healthy initiative this year that they've been working on, of course, in the arts and in our senior programming. It's all healthy. It's all good for the mind. It's all good for the body. Our customers are always smiling and talking and enjoying each other, talking about what they did. We just had a big event last Friday that everyone had been working on for over a month, and they've been still talking about it all this week. So if there's some new experiences they might want to try, we have a social circus program with the at-risk youth who are out of the system, the regular school system, and they can come to our center and take classes. So it's trust, strength, learning how to be with each other and listen to direction, but mostly trust. It's a great program that David's working with. As you can see, we have a lot of many traditional cultures and arts that we're also very involved in helping preserve. So we have people interested in teaching that to children and sharing it with their community, keeping them very active. We have a student showcase every year that brings together all of our different classes, so it's great to see the 3-year-old ballet folklorical students watch our senior tappers perform and then interact together. It's really wonderful to know. Our seniors are not separated from children, but they're also not run over them by either. We had a dance recently, one night, the teen dance, and also the senior Blue Moon Ball. It was really great to see up the walkway come everyone dressed in their gowns and the kids dressed in their outfits, looking at each other and then kind of parting, one to the ballroom, one to the dance studio. And then they were watching each other through the glass, because both have glass partitions that you could see across the courtyard. So it was quite fun to watch for us as staff to watch them enjoy that. We have films. Family films, we have a Latin film series, artist documentaries, so people come to us with ideas. We try to listen to them and figure out, okay, how can we do that within the budget? You all know about budgets. We're looking at budgets for 08-09 right now and trying to make sure that we have the money to do what we want to do and provide the services. We have lots of different activities going on all the time. Let's see, what have I not told you? We have a daily senior lunch program, which is one of our major programs. So it's our building was built with CDGB funds, so part of the social programs that we have incorporated, which was the daily senior lunch program Monday through Friday. And about once a month we have a specialty lunch, luau, hoedown, which we have coming up Wednesday. So it's a special event, as well as we have Military Appreciation Ball coming up, which is a full orchestra, dinner, and dancing. So a lot of different types of programs for that. And the staff, everything's prepared right there on the facility. We have a kitchen there, so it's fresh, it's fun. For some of our seniors, it is their only meal of the day, and we're aware of that and try to make sure that they have some little bit to go home, and all on a $2 per person budget, so we're working pretty closely. And as you can see from the images, we just have a really good time. If there's any questions, it's just going to kind of go through some of our festivals. I don't want to spend too much time just going on about what a great time we have. And if you're interested, our community's busy and active, and it's one way to keep people in your community excited about what's going on and what they want to share.
I guess we'll just let the presentation keep rolling.
It's almost, I try to kind of not talk too fast, but I'm now losing my voice. So.
I'm sure we have a lot of questions. This is very much an issue of interest, but I saw Councilmember Holland's hand go up first, so I'll defer to Councilmember Holland. Thank you.
Do you find that the seniors easily intermingle with the youth? Do they seek them out?
Depends on the program and the day. Our senior programs operate Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to about 4:30 p.m., although we're there till 9 p.m. and there are classes and things that they can stay for. Our cultural and arts programs start around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh, thank you. 2 o'clock in the afternoon and can go through till 9 p.m. So they see them come, like they're still playing cards. The canasta groups are growing right as the kids are coming with their guitars, so they see them. The kids like to stop and see, what's going on with the card game. The other night there was a pirate dinner for the seniors, so all the kids were like, why are they all getting to be dressed up like pirates? What's going on? So they, always are seeing each other, and we do have events where they are together. We have seniors who are going to be manning our pumpkin patch at our Halloween event, which is very brave because it's 3,500 goblins, and they're all there for candy and fun.
Sure.
And it's a pretty intense 3 hours. So they do interact and see them. Our guitar class has every age in it, as well as like our salsa classes, 7 to 99. So And we also encourage a lot of parents, come with your kids for those classes so that you have that interaction.
One other question. It all sounds good, and I like the concept. But what has been the most difficult thing about putting everybody together in one area?
I think when we first opened, just figuring out how it was going to work, because of course, as with anything, there's territories. So how is this going to work so that for me, on my management, I don't care what the customer in front of us wants, whether it's a senior customer, an arts customer, we take care of their need. And so just trying to make sure that staff understands that, because we have, staff that primarily work with the arts, and if they have questions about that, of course, we always try to get that staff to help them. But if that staff's not there, whoever's on duty takes care of that person. And of course, just trying to get the word out that we are not just a senior center, that we're also a cultural center, community center, so that we have multi-programs going on. So for us, like when we're selling our performances or our tickets, that's for all ages. Anyone can come to that. It's not specifically designed for seniors. So I think in the first part, just as far as them defining who's going to operate it. I was the sole coordinator for 2.5 years. We've just now added David to help with the coordination of senior programming. So it adds another programmer to that area. So we work together to make sure we are not stepping on each other's toes. Like we need the multipurpose room here. We plan way out in advance so that they have the time that they need, we have the time that we need, and everything works together. And that's not always perfect, but we work really hard at trying to make it so. So it's challenges from just two divisions. On our budget reports, we're one center. I turn in one expense and revenue report, even though I have expenses for seniors and revenues. And so we're the odd man out, and then we always have an extra line for our center. But
one other question.
Go ahead.
About the meals, is it just the seniors that get that one meal a day, or do you have any kind of a breakfast program?
We have a breakfast once a month. We have a pancake breakfast or omelet breakfast once a month.
Okay, that's for everybody.
That's primarily for seniors. You can bring a guest, and we don't deny anyone who wants to come, but it's primarily for our seniors, which are we consider seniors only 50 and up, so it's a very broad scope of people, and often they'll want to bring their daughter, or they might have a guest in town. That's perfectly fine while supply lasts. So meatloaf day, brisket day are very popular. So they come early. So although chicken salad's very popular as well too. So.
I saw some of the staff kind of wanted to raise their hand there.
Yeah, we kind of have to let people know it's primarily a senior lunch for that to serve a particular population, but it's customer service always as well too. So because we want to make sure they know our door is open and we're here to serve them or help them find out whatever it is they need, because we're a large building. We get all kinds of requests.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
I
you're
appreciate
welcome.
your coming.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Yeah, I assume this is financed by the city of Las Vegas, or
Yes, it is.
Do you have fundraisers? Do you have anything else that finances, or
We have
strictly under
CDGB
the-
funding, we have Nevada Arts Council funding, and we also have National Endowment for the Arts funding.
And how many full-time staff do you have?
6. We have 3 that primarily work with the senior division and 3 that work with the cultural division.
These are these teachers? These are people, leaders?
These are programmers.
These are programmers.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
I have 14 part-time teachers. Our senior division, we have probably 20 different teachers that teach from exercise to knitting to kayaking, golf.
Do you engage in any fundraisers? Or
No, we don't. We are, as a city, we're not allowed to solicit funds or ask for donations. So,
Well, that's a regulation in the city?
yes, it is.
Oh, I'll be done.
But if you want to offer something, I'm all ears.
So she can't ask, but she can accept.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm always willing to listen. If you have something to offer, we can find a way to accept it, but we're not allowed to solicit.
So you have these instrumental ensembles, vocal ensembles. I suppose they're. Do they ever turn out to be a full? Like, do they ever end up being a full orchestra?
Oh, sure. Yeah, our military ball we have coming up is a 15-piece orchestra. We have a salsa dance series that has a full orchestra and dance. We have bluegrass coming up, that's just a 5-piece. So it just depends on my budget that year of what I have. I use local and regional artists as well as national touring artists. So it just
But
depends.
the community citizens themselves that want to participate, do you sponsor ensembles, any kind of musical ensemble?
Sure. We have of our classes, we have our rondalla and our mariachi group and our ballet folkloric group, our resident groups. We've got several trios that practice and rehearse at our group. We just had a program last Friday that included 10 groups from the community as performers, which we didn't get to pay them, but we get to trade out rehearsal space. So they get to rehearse, we get a performance, and hopefully next year I'll get to pay them some. But we're always looking for that when we can pay them.
Sounds like you've got a very active program.
We do. My staff thinks sometimes a little too much, but hey.
Well, that's great.
We have a
Appreciate
good
you
time.
doing
We're
that.
very privileged. We try to remember that the people who come to us are coming to have a good time, to enjoy something, to stretch their mind a little bit. So we always feel privileged that they're not having to pay a fine or something with us. So we're very happy. And we also are allowed by City Council to keep the costs reasonable. Our most ticket price for a concert is day of $15, $10 in advance. So you can see a touring artist for $10. So it doesn't matter what their fee is. I have a limit on what I can charge. And our classes are also very reasonable, and we also have scholarship programs so that people can take them. Because we often have families that have 2 or 3 kids, even though a class might be $36 for 6 weeks. If you've got 4 or 5 kids, that could run up there. So we have scholarships available that they can apply for.
And you do you participate in, well, I suppose you're quite active in Americans for the Arts on the national level.
As much as I can.
Yeah, I understand. Well, I
Certainly
was
when they come to Las Vegas and they come to the West Coast, we certainly are when they're on this end of in our country, I call it,
Yeah, I was at
our
that-
end of the world.
I was at that conference too. It was very worthwhile. It was something I wish the whole council could have been to. It was very.
Yeah, they're very good about talking about the business of arts, which sometimes we're not as good about reminding people that it is about providing a service and having a price and a budget and what we
quality of
offer
life.
and quality
That's
quality
right.
of life. Yeah,
Well,
it is
thank
about
you
that.
very much. We really
You're
appreciate
very
you coming
welcome.
down.
Mr. Sousa, you had some questions?
I will. Did you have a
Sorry.
question?
Well, Bambi, I'm happy that you broke the motto about what you see here stays here.
We know that's not true, right?
I'm very impressed with your presentation. It gives us some idea of where we can go with such a program. How do you live down, really, the impression that with this type of a program, how do you live down the curtain of the Sin City? I don't understand, how your council could let something like that go on. To me, it's degrading. In this presentation, it was very impressive, and it shows that your council has a great perspective of where they want the city to go, and you're portraying that before us right now. But now this is being carried on, to Laughlin, the new Sin City, which I think is degrading to the city of Las Vegas and Laughlin and the state of Nevada as a whole. Why did they let this happen?
Probably because of money.
Well, I'm glad to see.
No.
I'm glad to see some of the money
It's
I
about
lost in
money.
Las Vegas go to this type of a program.
You
so.
know, it's
I know you can answer
politics
that.
and money, but they do. Those of us that live there, many of our constituents, of course, work at all the different types of venues that are on the Strip and downtown, and it's part of our community. It's part of what supports us, and we're very aware of that. We're also aware that there's more to life and that we have a great number of people who have so much to offer us. We're very blessed because of that. We have people from all over the world that live in Las Vegas, and at the grocery store I can hear every language, And I'm always going, oh, hey, maybe that's someone who wants to teach a Chinese class for me. Great. Hi, what are you doing? So, and that's what my interest is, pulling them in and letting us all get to know them. So we're very lucky that way. But
I know.
and they have more advertising money too. So.
Yeah, I know it's a hard question for an individual to answer, but I was just wondering this when I see it.
It's tough, but there are those of us that live here who hopefully aren't too sinful. But also that she wanted me to remind you that I forgot to mention we have a lot of senior trips as well. Our seniors are very active, and they go kayaking and horseback riding. We just took 5 van loads to the UNLV game. So a lot of things that they might not do on their own, they can go with the group and have fun. And it is a budget concern because we have a certain amount of money for that, and it's something that they want to do a lot of. They would love to travel outside the state, but we haven't been able to swing that yet, although we do have some organized groups who organize that for them. So they go on tours around the town. They're going to go on a spooky tour around haunted houses around town and tell stories, so just to get out and be active. So we're always trying to figure out what we can do. We just sent much to risk management's chagrin, 50 river rafting at Cottonwood Cove. So I'm happy to say they all returned very happy and ready to go again. So to us, that makes it all the paperwork to get that through worth it.
Well, thank you very much for coming here
You're
and
welcome.
making your presentation.
Well, thanks for watching it. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time.
I have one question.
Sure.
With all of these cultural and arts and dance classes that you provide, one of the needs that our city has is just flat out meeting space for moms clubs or Boys and Girl Scouts or things. Do you have an area where you specifically leave it open for programming of a different kind or meeting spaces?
We have 2 conference rooms. One holds 15 people, one holds 25. Those are primarily meeting type spaces. We do use them for classrooms off and on, but they're pretty much always set up as a conference room. They rent for $8 an hour, so it's available for anyone to rent. We have a multi-purpose room that's available to rent when we're not using it, so pretty much Friday evening, Saturday, it's available for rental. We try not to book classes in that particular room on that. And then our ballroom, whenever we're not using it for our programs, it is rentable. I get about 150 requests a month to rent my ballroom, and I may have one Saturday available. And it just depends also on the month if what kind of event wants to rent it. There's lots of family events, weddings, quinceañeras, real estate meetings. I just got a call from my boss right before I came here that one of the presidential candidates wants it on Sunday, this Sunday. I was like, this Sunday? Well, I don't know if I have staff. I'm not at my desk. So I'm closed on Sunday, but if the city manager says we're doing it, I guess I'll be there. So we do have those spaces because we do have like our rehearsal. We have a lot of groups that rehearse in our dance studio, and it's a very nominal fee to do that. And so we do have everything from baseball clubs to homeowners associations, and all of our city facilities have that capability. Our recreation centers.
Okay, so you have other...
Yes, I'm just one of 4 cultural centers. We have 11 senior centers, and I should know how many recreation centers we have. And on my street, I have my center, which is cultural and senior, a baseball field that's also city. There's a school, then we have a rec center, and then a sports center right on the corner. So we have a lot to offer just within our one block. But most of them have at least one conference room that's used for community meetings as well as city meetings, and which we schedule as available.
Very good. Thank you.
But it does bring revenue.
Well, you're located over closer to Lake Las Vegas than you are in downtown.
No, I'm near downtown Las Vegas.
Near downtown.
Just about 3 blocks from City Hall. It's called East Las Vegas because I'm in the city proper east. We have North Las Vegas, Henderson, Boulder City, and Clark County, all within the valley. So different municipalities
So
where
what
we all work
streets
together.
are you on approximately?
Eastern and Stewart,
Oh, okay, I know what that is.
right off 95. Come and see us. Cascada de Flores, January 12th. Tickets on sale now.
Walking advertisement. They train everybody to advertise up there. How large is the center again?
We're 40,000 square feet.
Okay. That is,
The ballroom is 93 feet by 145 feet.
so how
It'll
many
hold
people? Oh,
up to 1,200 people. We try to keep it around 1,000, but
That's a big ballroom.
if it's the stage up, then we try to keep around 500.
wow.
Just depends on the event. Halloween, it'll have a lot of goblins in it. Because our courtyard is equally as big where the bandstand is. It will also hold that many.
I suppose a goblin is like 5 foot and shorter, right?
5 foot and shorter, yeah.
Okay.
All goblins
You're
this
talking about the
way.
young goblin.
Yeah.
All right.
But,
You operate as a profit center for the city then? You said
well,
bring
we
money
did
into the
pretty
city,
well
or do you
last year.
offset your operating budget? You did last year.
We did pretty well last year, not including salaries and like utilities. We have a cost recovery that we have to, for our
Really?
classes and things, we have to cost recover at 100%. Concerts and those kind of programs. Depends on who we're talking to this year, whether it's 40 or 60%. And then, of course, we have free things because they also want things to not be too expensive and have free community events and make money. So we're all dancing a little bit, or trying to figure out how to do that all the time.
On the senior lunch, that's all provided free of charge, or is that $2
$2 a
per
day.
head?
$2 a day, yeah.
Okay, from the senior's pocket?
Yes, from the senior's
Okay.
pocket.
And
Costs us probably about
just-
$4, but
I was going to say, is that other portion then offset by your CDBG and local grant funding?
yeah, and our city money.
Okay. Any auxiliary kind of clubs? Councilmember Cavalier asked about the fact that whether folks had done fundraising or not. Oftentimes you see like an auxiliary, that you haven't had that occur.
Yeah, we
Okay.
don't have that, like the Friends of East Las Vegas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're not allowed to have that right
Oh, really?
at this
Oh,
time.
Not at all. Okay.
No. But if you know anyone else, just give us something. I need some shade on my patio and music stands.
Music stands. I'm
An
sure
enclosure of one
I'm sure the
patio.
folks down the strip are recycling music stands on a daily basis. But, all my questions were answered by my fellow colleagues. I just really appreciate you making the trip down here to Goodyear and taking the time out to visit with our staff and visit with us, and appreciate all your time. Did staff have any? I saw you all kind of whispering back there. Did you have any other thoughts y'all wanted to share with us as you were?
Any questions?
You got them answered. Okay.
You won't lose any money coming here.
Yeah.
Well, I did stop at the Herd, and I have done shopping already.
Hey, okay, so well, good.
It's a
You
dangerous store, so
pumped into the local economy. So.
absolutely. I come here quite often just for that. So
Good deal.
Mr. Reisner,
Yes, sir.
would it be
Sousa.
possible, Bobby, for you to provide a series of slides for Connie?
I do have the slide presentation, and I can make that available to you.
No. The copy of what she presented.
I have
Yeah.
that.
You do?
Yes, I
Fine.
do.
Because
Yeah.
the various programs that are,
I'd be glad to get that to you.
well, I want it for you and staff to have.
We do have it.
Okay, good.
We do.
I have lots of pictures, so we take pictures all the time because often our city council doesn't get to see what we do, so we're just trying to say, look how awesome we are.
Oh, that's very impressive, really, what you're doing. I can
Well,
appreciate
thank
it.
you very much. I know you have a lot on your agenda.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Keeps the community active.
All right, moving on to item 3B. This is an update on the Palo Verde Nuclear Generating Station. I've got a bio for Mr. Is it Eddington? Is that how I say it? Eddington? Mr. Randall Eddington, his name's Senior Vice President of Nuclear and Chief Nuclear, Senior Vice President Nuclear and Chief Nuclear, I know, I'm going to say it wrong, just like the President does, Officer for APS in January 2007. He is responsible for all, I'm prompting you, nuclear-related activities associated with the Palo Verde Nuclear Generating Station. Prior to arriving at APS, Mr. Eddington served as Senior Vice President and Chief Nuclear Officer for NPPD, which is the Nebraska Public Power District. His responsibilities included oversight and directional focus of the Cooper Nuclear Station on behalf of NPPD with an Entergy Corporation management contract. Randy began his nuclear industry career in the Navy's submarine program, serving 8 years. Thank you for your service, sir. Following his discharge from the Navy, which Councilmember Sousa will applaud you for the rest of the evening now. Following his discharge from the Navy in 1981, he began his commercial nuclear career at Arkansas Nuclear One. During his tenure at A&O, Randy obtained reactor operator and senior reactor operator licenses and held numerous positions, including non-licensed operator, shift manager, outage manager, operations manager, plant manager, and finally site general manager. Sounds like you can run the whole thing by yourself. Randy was transferred to Entergy's Riverbend Station in Louisiana in 1998 as site vice president. When Entergy acquired Indian Point 2 in 2001, Mr. Eddington was dispatched there to deal with emergent issues in the operations training program and became Entergy North Vice President Support Training, assigned to corporate offices supporting Indian Point Units 2 and 3 and Fitzpatrick Station in New York, Pilgrim Station in Massachusetts, and Vermont Yankee Nuclear Station. Mr. Eddington obtained a bachelor's degree in physical science, nuclear physics option from Arkansas Technical University, and a master's degree in operations management from the University of Arkansas. Thank you for joining us this evening, sir.
I appreciate it.
The floor is all yours.
Thank you. Good evening. You read my history, so I will mention I was in the Navy nuclear submarines, as you said, and from there, and that'll be important later on because in nuclear submarines, we spend about 90 days underwater, never surface at a time, and then when we do surface, we go on to do our other work. But I spent over a year in the Mediterranean underwater and never did see it, so I went back last summer to see it. It looks real good from the surface. I did join here in February because some of the regulatory challenges we had at the site and some of the performance issues, and as you can see by my history, I've been doing that across the country for many a year. If you go to the slides, one of the emphases we'll be talking about is safely and efficiently generate electricity for the long term. Emphasize the long-term aspects of what we're trying to do here and ensure that this is, Palo Verde is here providing electricity for many a year as we go forward. If you look at the next slide, I think.
Actually, if you just advance them right there in front of you.
Right here.
Keyboard? Is there a keyboard? Oh, you've got the keyboard.
You got her?
Oh, there you go, sir. Sorry about that.
APS load. This is for APS, and if you got to think about if you think about the electricity industry, I'll talk about it real quick. This is over a year period. You can see that we have very high peaks in the summer, and then of course the spring and fall much lower. We must have sufficient generation for those highest peaks. So we have a lot of our assets that are idle during other times of the year. Palo Verde provides about 4,000 megawatts, of which half of it is directly dedicated through SRP or APS to Phoenix. So about half our base load. We're a base load unit. We run all the time at the highest power we can safely. But you can see we provide over half the electricity in the spring days just for this area. And we have the capability of supplying all of it, but some of our other owners will use it off into other areas. But in the peaks, we must provide for that. And then we also have our daily cycle. Even from night to day, we'll be cycling plants up and down. If you look at our next area here, this is just across the industry. About 49% of this country's electricity provided by coal right now, around 20% by nuclear, and 19% natural gas. Hydro is only 7%. Renewables is about 3.1%. And we continue to work on that area, continue to work on conservation, but when you look at mass generation electricity, that number will keep getting a little bit bigger, but it's very hard to get it to extremely high numbers. So we still use almost 2% of oil. If you talk about nuclear power, basically I don't have the fuel pellet with me, but I was going to, just the tip end of my finger is one fuel pellet. And that one fuel pellet is equivalent to about 3 barrels of oil, a ton of coal, or 17,000 cubic feet of natural gas. So just one little pellet provides that much energy. This is looking down inside our reactor itself, and you see fuel assemblies, and the blue glow down there is where we have some reactor assemblies removed. And you are looking through about 30 feet of water down to that. So that's very clear water, and that's where our reactor is. And this is physically in the core itself. Move to the next slide. We use fuel, it just comes in trucks. Unlike, I lived downstream of a coal plant once, and they brought 2 trains a day through there. They were very long trains, and they had to go every single day. We bring in 4 truckloads of fuel about every 18 months. We put about a third of it in the core, and we rearrange the core, and then 18 months later, we bring another third of fuel in, and then 18 months later. So the fuel that we use is in there for 5 years, and then we take it out as spent fuel, and we'll talk about it. It's actually recoverable, can be recycled, can be used for future fuel in a distance, but we'll talk about dry fuel a little bit. So you have 4 truckloads of fuel a year. Now, if you think back to that nuclear submarine, one of the reasons we're able to stay underwater for months on end is that reactor does not release any gases. It does not use air to burn or anything, does not release gases. We make our water, we made our oxygen out of the water, and we had the reactor for all the power. The only thing that limited us on how far we could and long we could stay is how much food we could load in short tempers at the end of 90 days. When you get down to peanut butter and beanie weenies, then your tempers start getting short. And you run out of food pretty quick with 120 men for 3 months. So next slide.
Mr. Harding, what is the makeup of the fuel itself that's being transported into the plant?
Transport is uranium, mainly U-238, and then some enriched, very little bit of amount of enriched U-235. And when we bring fuel in, you can walk right up to it and hold it. When we irradiate it, it becomes high radioactive waste, and we keep it underwater or put it in dry storage. Basically, after 20 years per unit out there, we have our spent fuel pools, which is like a big swimming pool and very deep. They're full, and we're now going to dry fuel storage. But that's 20 years of generation per unit. So it's a very localized waste, but it is something that we have to deal with. If you look at world nuclear power, again, blue is the United States. That's 19%. That's about 104 reactors. And I've been to about 70% of them across the country, working at different stages, directly associated with about 15 of them. If you look over at France, there's 78%. That's about 58 reactors. So we use 104 reactors to get 19% of our power, obviously, and then France uses 58 reactors to get about 78% of their power. Obviously, much smaller territory. And also the percentage numbers don't get mixed up by number of reactors. Internationally, there's all kinds of reactors coming on every year. 2 or 3 reactors a year usually are coming in internationally.
Are those much smaller reactors in France than they are typically in the U.S.?
No, they're actually the U.S. We started earlier, and they were smaller and got bigger. And France used our design at about 1,000 megawatts, and then actually about 800 megawatts, and upgraded them to very similar to the same size we use at Palo Verde now. Palo Verde is the largest nuclear generation site in this country. That's all the other plants and the megawatts they generated in 2006, and you see the blue line is us. And that wasn't our best year. We can actually generate well above that line, go off the chart. So we generate more electricity with nuclear power than any other site in the country. Palo Verde itself is the largest nuclear power generation. We are about 20 years old of commercial operation. These units are good for 40 years each, and then they can do a license renewal for another 20 years. We are currently in that process looking at it. So it'll be good for 60 years total, and we've used up about 20 years of it. And then the country is starting looking at an additional 20, so they may be very well and be licensed beyond that, but the current process only lets us take it up to 60 years. We do put out about 4,000 megawatts. That meets the Metro Phoenix area, about 4 million, and we can provide about 3.5 million in general. We used to be able to provide 4 million, but everybody uses more electricity these days, so we had to lower that number some. So we basically provide the Metro Phoenix area. We have multiple owners, and again, if you look at APS and Salt River Project, we're about half the capacity, and then the others are divided out to other parts of the area. We have CE units, like I said, 3 units, and then we have our own water treatment plant out there, which we'll show you a picture of later. If you look at our business, basically the triangle recommends safely and efficiently generate for the long term, as we talked about earlier in wording. And those blocks are just areas that we focus on. We make sure our equipment, our people, our safety aspects, and various others. We have our own training facilities. We have accredited training programs. Very similar to what a college does. We actually credit 12 different programs, our maintenance programs, our operations programs. So if you look at what we've been talking about, we're doing our normal refueling outage about every 6 months. We are this year doing a steam generator replacement outage. Those are 720 tons each. They were built in Spain, shipped overseas to Mexico. We trucked them up here at about 3 miles an hour coming up through Baja, Mexico. And we just got those in. We're putting those in as we speak. So those are very large efforts. So we're doing a much longer outage this year to replace those steam generators and set ourselves up for the next 40 years. Also in here is the NRC 95003 inspection. You've heard about some of the regulatory challenges we've had. That's where I come in, and that I've gone to plan after plan across the country to improve its performance. Basically, they're running okay and they're running safe, but we need to get their recovery done and get their capacities back up and aspects there. We are currently in a major inspection. We have about 26 people for 6 weeks from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission that are out there right now digging into everything we've ever done in detail. There will be public meetings about every quarter. So another one we've already had some. You've probably seen it in the newspapers. We will have another one in December, and basically the evaluation process will be over, and then it's just a matter of putting everything on the table and just keep driving the performance. And I fully expect to see that performance continue to improve. We actually have improved our capacity about 10% this year from last year, even with this challenge that's going on. If you look at the community impacts, we got a $233 million payroll that stays in the area. So that's probably kind of important. We pay a lot of taxes, and then our employees, proud to say, gave over $1 million to charity, including company matches last year. Environmentally, we've already talked about greenhouse impacts. There are no greenhouse gases released from a nuclear reactor. There is a high-level waste that they're very localized, but it is every facility has a commercial waste that you have to deal with. That is ours, and then we. Basically, to replace this, you'd need to put about a third of the city under solar. So you'd need all that surface area to even come work close to that. Then we do take the municipal wastewater and use it as our cooling source. So that municipal wastewater we treat, and then we use it in our plant. If you look at our water, if you look at this picture here, on the lower right-hand corner is our water treatment facility, and on the top is the 3 units. And where it looks like smoke, but it's actually water vapor is coming out. Those are our cooling towers. We do on-site dry fuel storage. I'm sure you've heard of Yucca Mountain. Basically, we put this fuel in our spent fuel pool, or now in what's called dry fuel storage. I'll show you a picture of it. Those are concrete cylinders with fuel assemblies in them sitting there at the site. We have about 50 of them loaded. If you look at the bottom picture, that's an aerial view. You see about 12 pads, and you see 1 2/3 of a pads loaded. That's 50 casks. Next slide. And the next area, this is what a dry fuel canister looks like. It's really sexy technology. It's concrete and steel and no moving parts. If we could take that and set it right here and continue with this meeting, and you wouldn't, with fuel assemblies in it, and it'd be shielded enough that you wouldn't see any kind of public limits or anything associated with it. If you look at this kind of the stainless in the middle, that would be lifted out, put to a transfer cask, and shipped off. But right now they just sit inside those concrete cylinders. They're air cooled. So the air just they're sealed, and then the air just goes by, and that's the cooling port. There's no gases released from that because it's all sealed canister. And that's kind of a brief, and now I'll go to questions.
Thank you for the very comprehensive presentation. I'm sure we've got questions, but probably nothing as hard as you've answered from the NRC while they've been out there visiting. So I'll start with Councilmember Sousa.
Thank you. Charrington, you're here basically because I requested this meeting with you. And I'm concerned. I mean, we're so close to Palo Verde. Mm-hmm. And over the years that I've lived here, we've had so many reports of outages and downages and replacement of equipment. And that begins to strike a concern. For me personally, as a representative of 57,000 people, along with this council, I just want assurances from you, and because they did bring you in here because of the problems that Palo Verde has experienced or is experiencing, and to get some assurances from you that this city is not in danger in the near future from any type of exposure to events that may occur from Palo Verde. And I come from Pennsylvania, and as a kid I remember 3 Mile Island, and certainly all of us are familiar with Chernobyl, and that strikes a fear in anybody who lives so close to a nuclear plant that something like that could occur and consequently affect the livelihood of everybody that lives in and around that facility. I want assurances from you, if you can give them, that the safety factor at Palo Verde.
Well, yes, sir. Well, I can, and that let me talk a few things just to kind of answer and put a few things in perspective. The awareness of what a nuclear power plant is like, we need to continue to educate everybody. In fact, I would invite everybody on the panel, come out and tour the plant. The more you can see, the more you can understand us, the better off we think we are. 3 Mile Island was a melted reactor core. There was not a single person hurt. There was not a single person that even exceeded any limits that we normally operate by. So just normal limits, not even emergency limits. So it was a financial hit, and it changed our entire industry as we went through it. But again, even with that core melted, there was nobody was hurt whatsoever. Chernobyl was a different scenario. It was overseas. It was a graphite moderated reactor without containments. We work with, after 3 Mile Island, we developed the Institute of Nuclear Power Operation, which focused on training and all kinds of defense in depth for a nuclear plant. After Chernobyl, we developed the World Association of Nuclear Operators, and we are currently working to shut down all reactors that were anywhere near designed like Chernobyl was, because we don't feel like those are appropriate reactors. We have none of those in the U.S. We're not allowed to build those. We have full containments like 3 Mile Island. So even though you've heard about 3 Mile Island, what many people don't realize is nobody was hurt and nobody was even exceeded a normal daily limit. When you think about reactors, the highest dosed commercial person in the world is the airline pilots, because they fly up at a higher level and they get the natural radiation. Now, when I was on a submarine right next to a reactor living with it, my wife got more dose than me because she likes to sunbathe, and I was down underneath and there was no sun, and we weren't releasing anything from the reactor. So we really want to ensure that we just get the facts on table. These plants are designed for safety and multiple redundancy. With that in mind, we continue to, and we have a very strong Nuclear Regulatory Commission who actively monitors, and the area that we're talking about is our performance. If you look at 15 years ago, performance of plants was this broad. Performance of plants is now this much. So we have regulatory scrutiny, but we are running better than the average reactors were running 10, 15 years ago. And that's because we've raised the bar on how we run those plants. But they are designed with defense in depth. They're designed with all aspects of that. I am perfectly comfortable living right next to one. It doesn't bother me a bit. In fact, there are many things that goes up and down this freeway that I'd be much more worried about than that reactor. That doesn't mean that we have emergency plans. We have to deal with the media aspects and the misunderstanding. I can again give you an example of, and I worked on a plant that was 35 miles from downtown New York City, by the way. And if you look at, if a gas well blew in a town next to where we worked at in Arkansas, they evacuated town for 4 days. It made nationwide news for 1 day. About 3 months later, we had a fire in the secondary side of the plant. We shut the plant down. We made nationwide news for 5 days. Here's a whole town gets evacuated. Over here, we shut a plant down. Fossil plants are shut down all the time. We have the same problems that you do with turbine. It's a large piece of equipment, so we deal with rotating equipment. We shut down for days sometimes to fix a piece of equipment. So does all the fossil plants. You never hear about those. Because that's what we have to deal with. So all I can tell you is we constantly rebuild a plant, we constantly monitor it, and we run at such a strict level of compliance and such a strict level of monitoring that you will hear about us when there's other plants that are shut down much harder than us that you never hear about. Might be in the valley, by the way. Could just be just down the street.
Well, you know, what strikes concern for me is the regulatory commission that is indicating that there's concern for Palo Verde. And certainly those of us who live in close proximity to the plant read this in the newspapers, and consequently, you know, we get upset and concerned.
I understand, sir, and I will say the Nuclear Regulatory Commission has never said that Palo Verde is unsafe. In fact, they emphasize the safe aspects of the plant. If they felt like we were unsafe, they would shut us down. If we felt like we were unsafe, we would shut down before they had to. So there's a bar that we're looking at levels of performance and ensuring that we never approach those areas. But I would ask you to go back and look at those articles, and it will say every time the Nuclear Regulatory Commission has been quoted, they've said that we are safe, and that's margins of safety that we're working on.
I'm going to take you up on your offer to visit the plant, and I would hope the staff would get in contact with you and make that arrangement for
We will absolutely love to have any of you come out and make a good, thorough tour.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
No problem. Councilmember Hahn.
I'm a great believer in the nuclear program, and I've always had the fear that they might close you down. So when you read all the information in the paper, there is concern that the public misunderstands, or that there's things happening out there, and there might be a lot of noise made by the public that would force a heightened level of inspection, and they might actually close down. But for the environment, it's like the greatest thing that's going. I know we've had some recent incidents, and we've also put in some new equipment. One of the pieces of equipment is computerized, and it actually, when it detects any type of issue that might not be of the norm, it automatically starts shutting things down, and it gives alerts. So, I mean, and they have just recently updated all that with the new software. So I guess I'm feeling good about what you said, and yet we still read these negative things in the paper, and they always make it sound a little bit more serious than I believe it is. But when you read it in the paper, you've got to say, hey, they must know something that we don't know. And how can we keep getting that right information out there?
Well, again, I would encourage you to come out and look, as we've just talked. We'll put all the facts on the table. We'll show it. The media, this is, they are allowed to write what they want in this country. They do. And that's fair, too. We are a very highly regulated organization. We work on margins of safety. And we have what we call just a significant defense in depth. And in December, you'll hear, we'll have public meetings every quarter as we work through this process. And I'm sure the NRC is not out there to tell me how good I'm doing. They're telling me, here's the things I want you to work on and improve. We do the same thing. We don't wait for them. That's what will be reported at those public meetings. They won't stand up there and say, here's where you're achieving. So it's how many levels and margins of safety are we building into it. So I will unfortunately tell you that in December the media report will not be extremely positive. But if you go back and read the ones that we've been dealing with, they're always saying we're safe. And again, if we did not think we were safe, we'd shut down. And if the NRC did not think we were safe, they'd shut us down. And it's margins of safety, not just automatically unsafe.
Sure. I think it's the negatives that have a tendency to affect, it's not just the public. I mean, of course, all of us would be concerned about that. But I'm still think like you said, the Regulatory Commission keeps a real close eye on that. And I don't hear any rumors about any new nuclear facilities coming on board. And that seems like that we're going to have to go that way if we don't want to keep trucking that coal in.
We're currently working, I mean, there are various plants that are looking at options, not in this area just yet, but in other parts, mainly the southeast at this time. And then internationally, they're building plants all frequently.
Okay.
So it'll be a decision. You saw the mix, the pie chart. What do you want to make electricity with? I don't think we'll make any more hydro. We're down to coal, gas, and nuclear at this point. It's our choice.
Thank you very much.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much for coming out here. I was an info accredited instructor out there for 12 years, so I can assure you I know what went on out there. So it is, and Palo Verde of all nuclear plants, and I visited a lot of nuclear power plants while I was out there, and I think ours is one of the safest that I have ever seen. And operations and every person out there, I think, takes their job very seriously. And something like, what is it, 12%? It used to be about 12% of their time was spent in training or retraining. I don't think it's quite that much now.
There's quite a bit, and plus we've raised the bar and continue to raise our testing and all and standards. So
It was my job to go out and find lessons learned, find all the incidents and all the other power plants and bring those to Palo Verde if they applied to our plant. And there was, I certainly have all confidence in the world in that management and every person that worked in that plant. So it's congratulations to you and all your people for running such a safe plant. It is the pride of the country as far as nuclear. Now I want to know when we're going to build any more, and how are you going to? I mean, I think it's financing from what I'm hearing. I know it's very expensive to build, and is APS able to finance something like this, or is this something a government that we'd have to?
it's something that would be a partnership with other utilities, or some of the very, very large utilities could do one on loan, but most of them would do a partnership too. And so I think you will see in the next few years, mainly in starting the southeast is where it'll initiate because of the growth patterns and all, and the area there. So I would expect to see that. Here, eventually, we will do it. It'll just be a matter of what our growth patterns are and when's the right time.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, I'm glad to hear that I won't be glowing in the dark anytime soon. But I will have to say, your little slide presentation did pique my curiosity. The slide regarding the chart showing all the different nuclear power throughout the world, and I'm going to make sure I heard you right, that France has 58 reactors.
That's correct.
But 78% of the energy is from nuclear power.
That's correct.
And in the United States, we have 104 reactors, but we're only using 19%.
That's purely the size of the countries, the electricity demand.
Okay.
When you go into percentages, it's purely, we're such a large country with so much megawatt. I mean, our capacity on megawatts is, 10 times what France is at least.
Well, like I said,
so you'd have to have a whole lot more to do that. They made a conscious choice because they don't have coal reserves or oil reserves to pursue nuclear years ago, and they did that as a conscious
They
choice.
didn't want to dam up the Blue Danube.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Just a couple of questions from me. That the public meetings that you're going to be having on a quarterly basis, where can the public or us as a council learn more on where those are held?
Those are always noticed in the newspaper,
Are they?
and we can. And Terry Young is my director of communications. I brought him in from Info, and Chris just joined us also, so we can make sure you know it. But we notice those in the newspapers, and they will be held. Sometimes at Australia Mountain College, sometimes at the school out. It depends on where we end up where we want to be.
You all have a stakeholder database that you email folks or let them know in other means as well?
It is.
Okay.
Those emails, those meetings actually are scheduled by the Regulatory Commission. So those are the NRC's meetings.
Okay.
They issue press releases about when those will be held and where.
Great. staff doesn't mind, I don't know if everybody else feels this way, but if staff doesn't mind maybe talking to you afterwards, figuring out if we can get on that press release distribution list so we're notified around the same time and can put stuff up about it, that'd be great. And then regarding your specific nuclear power plant, is there a website or something that the public, that maybe some folks have tuned in and are interested? You know, we all hope that folks are watching us on the web because we have these big egos and we like to make sure they're watching us. But is there a website that folks can check out?
We have an APS website, but I don't know specifically the Palo Verde.
There's nuclear information on the APS website.
So just www.aps.com. Okay, great. And then how many employees? You talk about payroll, but how many employees are out there at the plant?
We have 2,400 approximately APS employees. We run about 400 to 500 baseline contractors that are there all the time, and then we peak another 600 or 700 during refueling outages.
So anywhere
So
from
3,000 people almost all the time, just under, and we can go as high as 3,500, 3,600.
I'll tell you, if 3,500 people will drive out there on a daily or weekly basis and sit there by the reactor, and hopefully at least a small percentage of them are sane, I feel a little bit safer knowing that they're all driving out there to work. I would venture to guess, I know safety's come into question for you a lot, and I would venture to guess that if my car, even though it's less than a year old, was inspected as much as you all are inspected, I would find 10 months after the fact, even when it's under warranty and still operating, that my tire pressure isn't at a safe tire pressure, my oil isn't changed frequent enough, and my spark plugs maybe are a little out of whack and it's running a little rough. And those of us that get in our vehicles every day in and out of the city or in and out of a grocery store are probably more at risk often than those 3,500 employees going out to your place on a daily basis. So that's my little stump on safety. But appreciate your time, appreciate you coming out, and I'm sure many of us, we got another question, but I'm sure many of us would love to take you up on the opportunity to tour it. I've learned more this evening than I have in the 5 or 6 years.
Well, we absolutely welcome you again. The more we can show people and get the facts on the table, I think the better off we'll be.
Right. Councilmember Cavalier's got last question.
Is the little museum, or whatever you call it, little displays, that's still open?
It's still open and we're updating it.
Are you updating that?
It's kind of out of date right now, so we're starting to update it, but it's still available. It's got a lot of good information.
So and also the, what do you call it, the operator simulator, is that available for guests?
That is part of the tour. We will make sure you see that
that's
and
the best
understand
part.
how much, just to kind of give you an example, that I was an ex-reactor operator, senior reactor operator license. If you went to college for 4 years and you had to take an aggregate test at the end on everything you just did, that's what that is about. Then every year we get to do it again. So then they sample us every year. So, and as you know, Frank, you gave the training. So we are constantly tested and trained at high levels. But I do want to emphasize again, I absolutely, sir, feel that these plants are safe, and any of them in the United States is. And it's talking margins and margins safety. I do think we need to continue to educate people what the options are and let them make choices. I will tell you that as we work through this column 4 regulatory process over the next quarter, you will continue to read stuff in the media as those quarterly meetings, because they will not be there to tell us how great everything is. They're going to be saying, here's the piece we need to improve on, here's the area we need to do it. It is margins of safety, so when I leave here December, you can pretty much expect a little bit more of a challenge.
Well, we have several members of the press here, and I hope they pick that up.
Be glad to talk to them at any time.
And we'd like to bring them along if you don't mind.
We're welcome. We have taken media out there. They're more than welcome to come, and I will turn you loose with a troop of employees, so you're not just talking to management.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it. Moving on to item 3C. Yes, would we like to take about a 5-minute break? We'll get back together at 6:40. Seconds, 30 seconds. Chop, chop. 4-2, top of the seventh. Cleveland's ahead.
Good.
Cleveland's ahead. Not the Diamondbacks, sorry. They start in a little while. Not that anybody's counting. I don't think they start till at the 8 o'clock hour. So I'm keeping y'all here till about 8:25. Oh, 7:17 is the first pitch? Okay. Where's Mr. Nichols?
Hey, I'm 15
Is he weeping somewhere about the Boston Red Sox losing right now?
Do you have any problems?
Okay.
The Red Sox, the Red Sox usually.
All the above.
4-2.
All right. Where's Joanne? Where's Joanne? Somebody hunt down Joanne.
Come on, Joanne, let's go. Joe.
Wait a second. Let's get Joanne back in here.
You're the boss.
Give her 1 second. Make sure she's not. There we go. All right, moving on to item 3C. Council will be provided with the opportunity for input related to design options for fire station number 186. I believe this is the fire station. Shelley Vasquez. No, I'm just kidding. Shelley. Now you're in trouble. My friends will give you a hard time.
You're in trouble.
Fire Station 186 is planned for the east of Rainbow Valley Road on Willis Road. So it's way down south. And Neil,
Yes,
you've got 2.5 minutes for this present. No, I'm just kidding. Take it away.
it'll be 15, 20 tops, sir.
It's all yours.
Well, I'd like to thank council for us to be able to have the opportunity to come up here tonight and actually present the design concepts for this future fire station 186. Public Works and staff actually work together, and we've hired Perlman Architects to help us design this facility. Just for the simple fact of being able to help give you guys an indication of where this project's at, I provided the Montecito Phase 3 conceptual design plan. You can see right here is actually where the current Rainbow Valley Reclamation Facility is at. This is the Willis Road proposed. The little red dot right here is actually where the this site is at. We have a 4-acre site. Zoom that in. So that gives you an indication of where that location is at. Rainbow Valley Road's right here, Willis Road's right there. With that being said, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Gerald Adams with Perlman Architects, and the rest of his design team will be here to help show the elevations and design concepts.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and members of council. It's a great pleasure. We have a passion for doing public safety design, and we've been watching Goodyear grow over the last 5 years and really been looking for an opportunity to design your next fire station. So, friends, it's a great pleasure to present tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, as Neil said, we have a 4-acre site that's located on Willis Road in Rainbow Valley, way south against Montecito Phase 3. We have a 4-acre site. One of the obstacles that we had in design, and one of the things that's a fun challenge, is to try to have multiple facilities coexist on the same site, but also have relationship to each other and safety with ingress and egress with the safety personnel. What you see on our site plan is the stuff that's represented in blue is a police component, and the stuff that's represented in the yellow is fire department component. The gold is joint use or community, if you will, public facilities, and then there's a couple of miscellaneous colors in there for public works and such.
You're just talking within the building structure.
Within the
You're
building
identifying
structure
those
itself,
colors,
the floor
right?
plan, correct. On the back side, we have all of the public and staff parking. It would be behind the fence. That would be secured during the day and during operational hours, with fire department police having access through that gate. On the front, we have public and ADA parking, and that would be for the people visiting the facility for blood pressure, incident report writing, whatever the police department wanted to have done there, along with the fire department. So what we've tried to do is isolate public from staff to keep them separate again, so that the public doesn't confuse the fire and police department. That's a big problem usually in fire station design. When fire trucks are coming out, police cars are coming out, the public doesn't know where to go. So we wanted to kind of separate those two uses within the site. I think we've done that. In the back, again, we have multiple uses. Police is off to the left, fire to the right, and public works is sort of in the back area back there, which is just a small component of the overall project. If I may, I'd like to go ahead and present the elevation schemes, if there's no questions on the site plan.
Got a question. What is the street, real quick? You're exiting out onto, it says parcel B again. What's the street? Is that ring?
That's actually not a named street at this point.
Okay.
It's parcel B. The point is to have an access to come in and out off of Willis. Operationally, we feel that it would be difficult to exit on and off of Willis Road once it gets
Would
developed.
that be a similar street, local street, to the existing condition of 184? 182, pardon me. I always, the way we did our fire stations, it always screws me up. 182 down in Estrella, it's got the local street. Is that similar condition?
Vice Mayor, that is correct.
Okay.
Okay, the first scheme we did, we were actually asked to present two different schemes, and the user group, police department and fire department user group, asked us to look at a kind of territorial design that would fit the neighborhood, and then also a more civic or contemporary design. The first design we did is our rural territorial, and this is the one that we feel mimics the surrounding neighborhood and is respectful to the neighborhood as it develops in the future. I can show you some other samples here in a minute with the actual materials because it doesn't show real well. We wanted to use standing seam roof, kind of reduce the masses of the building to represent sort of the residential flair of the community without making this a huge monument, but also blend in as a civic building, something that the people can relate to and understand that this is a fire station, is a place to go, a safe harbor, somewhere to find the fire department and police department when they need them. So it's sort of mimicked after the rural territorial, which is represented in the community of Montecito and also in Estrella as well.
When you say standing seam, you mean steel?
Standing seam metal roof, correct. And then it would be masonry perimeter with an accent in masonry at the base. So the whole perimeter would be done in masonry, so it's a durable building that will be here for the long term and also stand up to the wear and tear that the buildings usually face. Okay. I'm going to show you another quick rendering which kind of gives you a little bit better idea of what the building would look like. This is strictly an exhibit to show the concepts and the massing and forms of the building itself, although the materials are not as represented again on the Elmo as they could be. As you can see, it looks very much like a territorial home in the neighborhood. It would blend in, but it still has a civic presence. The wayfinding, you can see where the lobby, the entrance is, identifies the building as a public safety facility within the neighborhood, as well as we've also tried to de-emphasize the apparatus bays and bring the scale down on that so that, again, it's not a big bay that everybody sees as they drive down the road. The next scheme, which was scheme 2, was the contemporary/civic approach to the building, which is similar to some of the buildings that are in the area. It might be more appropriate for a downtown area or more of an urban environment, not so much a rural environment. We wanted to present this to also show that this building could reflect that identity should council and the user group decide to go that route. It's a little bit more simplified. The same materials, we still use masonry, actually exposed metal architectural elements, and then we went with a flat roof on this one versus the standing seam metal roof. Again, we're trying to break up the masses with different types of architecture and simplicity with this design. And here's a 3D rendering that represents the same, which I actually think helps define the building a little bit better. You can see the masses and kind of how we're relating the materials back and forth without actually changing the floor plan or the function of the building itself. Any other questions? Okay. We actually additionally did 2 or 3 color schemes, and I don't think I'm going to be able to show all 3 of these up here at once. We did 3 color schemes for each of the 2 concepts and presented to the user group, fire department, police department, and also the community at the open house. We actually did a survey of all the people that are in attendance, and we actually had a 9-to-1 vote on one of the schemes, which I'll present here in just a moment.
Is that a green? That's a green roof in color scheme B? Oh no, that was just a reflection.
That's a reflection. I actually have a color board I'll show you here. Let me do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's pass it up. While Neil's passing that last one around, I'll see if I can page. Here's the 3 color schemes for color scheme 2. What we want to try to do is pick native colors. Again, that had a palette that was compatible with the area and sensitive to the architecture of the building as well. And those are the 3 different color schemes. The color board we're passing around right now is actually on scheme 1. and the 9-1 approval was for Scheme 1, color Scheme A, which is the burgundy roof with the gray block and the accented with the gray. When we presented that to the user group and to the fire department, it was pretty much unanimous except for one person that I think just said that we like the other one, but we could go either way. So we feel very comfortable in presenting and making a recommendation to go with Scheme 1, color Scheme A, for this project, Village 10 Public Safety Facility, Fire Station 186.
He's passing it along here. I just kind of indicated to Neil to pass it along. There you go.
Fit into the community.
So your first scheme, far left side.
First scheme, far left side, correct.
Got it, okay. And far left side on the board that you gave.
Yes, that is correct.
They gotta sit over there.
I agree with you.
That pretty much concludes our presentation, but we're glad to answer any questions that you might have reference to the architecture. We look forward to moving forward and making this a reality.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm going to start on this side this time. I started on that side last time. Councilmember Osborne.
No questions. I have to go with what everybody else said. I like it. I think it's good for the neighborhood. And looks inviting. Homey. Good color.
Scheme 1?
Scheme 1? Yep. Territorial design. You like the one they recommend? Okay.
Blend right in, community.
Right.
I like Scheme 1 too, until the real traditional group here. Have the fire chief and battalion chiefs taken a look at your design yet?
Yes, they have actually. The battalion chiefs and the user group has submitted everything that we've submitted to you. They've seen and reviewed, and we've met regularly on this particular project, going through programming, the color schemes, and everything.
Okay. And I believe it was Fire Station 184 that won the architectural awards. And were you involved in that at all?
I was not. I
okay,
couldn't
this is
answer
a
to
new fire station for you, or new challenge for you in this area. You don't feel intimidated, do you?
Not at all. We've actually designed many stations in the valley. We have several under construction and completed recently. Most recently, you might have seen about Surprise Fire Station 305 and 306 that just had a grand opening as of Saturday. We even were involved in those projects as well as many others around the valley. I've been doing public safety design work for 15 years now in the valley.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
We expect this one to get higher marks.
Absolutely.
Would love it. I would absolutely love it.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Okay. I think it looks good.
Thank you.
I was going to say, I definitely agree with your recommendation. I question about the bay doors. In your 3D perspective, you show them as windows. In your two-dimensional perspective, you show them as kind of barn doors. They look opaque.
Right, and that's still being determined right now. We're actually reviewing different door types and uses for functionality with the fire department, and we've talked about a couple different scenarios. There's about 3 different types of doors that we could use, and we're working out the details right now to see what works best for them functionally.
Typically, safety prevails, and you guys probably will end up with windows, but I mean, if there is any way to be a little bit more innovative than just the square, I think it looks very attractive. Not that the glass ones don't look attractive, but the barn doors look pretty cool.
I think the barn doors are a nice touch. One thing that we like about the glass with the northern exposure is at night it still says, "Welcome home, here I am. We're here to save and serve." And I think that's one of the things that we try to balance when we're doing the design of the project itself.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Neil. What's that? No, I don't want them unless somebody else wants the copies of them and your sample board here. Last but not least, item 3D. This item tonight's brought to us by the West Valley Arts Council. We'll provide an update on the Cultural and Heritage Blueprint, and Lily's going to introduce the subject.
Vice Mayor Antoniak, council members, this evening we're going to hear from Julie Richards, Executive Director of the West Valley Arts Council, on an update on the report that was prepared, the blueprint. I'll call her up now.
They did it in 2.5, so you get 3.5.
I only have this to go through, so we should be out of here by 11 or so, I figure. I'm just kidding.
You know how to open the door?
Nice.
Formally present the cultural blueprint to the city of Goodyear.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
For your city
Services. All right. Is this the project that Mayor Kavanaugh
Yes, this is
assisted you
the
with?
project
Okay.
that Mayor Kavanaugh co-chaired actually, and how do I make this thing go forward? Just hit the enter, oh, there we
There
go.
you go.
As you know, we came to you, first I want to just explain the little packages. We have a project called the Big Read that you all received information in the mail about, and there's a To Kill a Mockingbird book for each of you and a video or an audio guide that talks a little bit about the background of the book. And I just wanted to remind you to celebrate the Big Read with us at our kickoff, hopefully on October 27th at the Northwest Regional Library in Surprise. And please attend some of the events during the month of November. We're going to have a lot going on, and it should be a lot of fun. So that little commercial first. Back to the blueprint. If you remember back a couple years ago, when this project first was conceived, we wanted to get all of the West Valley cities involved in a cultural planning process. It needed to do an assessment first, and really the process behind it, or the thinking behind it, was to get all of our cities talking about cultural development throughout the West Valley. So, of course, we needed funding to do that, and typically these projects are funded by a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts or a grant from a foundation or something like that, and then sold to the community later. And we knew that by getting all 13 cities involved, or having all 13 cities involved, we needed to get you all involved up front. So we felt very strongly about getting the funding for it up front, which is what we did. And the city of Goodyear participated with funding along with the other cities in the West Valley, so that's how we were able to do the project. We began with data collection. We had 2,500 people respond to our surveys, as well as artists and arts organizations throughout the West Valley. All of that information was then put into a list of priorities with different items underneath those priorities, and we held a summit last October, and I know some of you were there. At the summit, those priorities were presented, and those items were presented, and each city then voted on what they felt was most important for their city, and then that was compiled into these reports. We then put it into the blueprint, which we presented the draft in January, and got feedback from everyone, and did revisions, and now we're doing presentations to all the cities. So that's been kind of the process over the past 2 years with this project. Going through the priorities, there's a lot more detail that I'm going to tell you tonight, and I really do encourage you to look through that summary section that I gave you that's actually in the front of the blueprint. But quickly, I'm going to run through the priorities and to just kind of tell you what they are. Priority 1 and 2 deal with artists and arts organizations. Essentially, what the blueprint is pointing out is that in order for the West Valley to really truly be culturally developed, and for us to really compete globally with the knowledge economy, we need to have more artists and more arts organizations in the West Valley. So that's talking about those issues and some of the things that we can do to improve that. Priority number 3 talks about marketing and coordinated promotion. One of the biggest negative on our assessment was that people are very unaware of what's going on in the West Valley. There are many, many things going on, but the awareness is very, very low. Most people in the West Valley are new, and they just have no idea what exists here culturally. And part of the problem is because we have such a diversified distribution mechanism. We have a lot of small community newspapers, and it's essentially cost prohibitive for arts organizations to advertise in every single one of those newspapers and in the Downtown Sunday section, which is very cost prohibitive for all of us. So it's very difficult to provide the kind of awareness. I've lived all over the country, and we've never had to spend the amount on marketing that we spend here to get the word out to a very small percentage of the population. So that gives you an idea. Ways that we can improve that, and the cities can get involved. I'll talk about that in a little bit and help that issue. So we do a lot of grassroots marketing, too. We do a lot of email blasting and that type of thing. Number 4 talks about partnerships and resources. Obviously, the best way for all of us to get what we need to have done is to work together. So it talks about ways that we can partner together. Facility development is in this section, and also money. Obviously, it all comes down to money. How many of you have heard of MPAC, the Maricopa Partnership for Arts and Culture? Almost all of you. Also, you all have. Good. Excellent. You may or may not know that they're talking about putting a referendum forward to increase the sales or put a sales tax out there that would generate $50 to $60 million annually for arts and cultural development. And that's something that you'll be hearing more about as the plans for that project firm up. And I'll make sure that you know what's going on as that happens. So obviously resources. There are also ways that the city of Goodyear could generate your own resources. You could generate your own tax. You could generate, create districts that would be funded. It would help fund the arts overall. So that section talks about resources. Number 5 talks again about increasing cultural participation. It talks about the issues that hinder people from participating in the arts and attending arts events as well as arts activities and festivals and classes and that type of thing. It also contains the Mosaic data. Mosaic is a marketing conglomeration of data. And essentially what we've done is taken the 14 main arts organizations that provide services to the West Valley, filtered them through this system, and then it determines or helps you determine in your city what your city is most inclined to do. And in Goodyear, it just happens that we have a strong, moderate, and weak percentage of the market for cultural development or cultural participation, which is really interesting. But it also talks about how you can take that Mosaic data and apply it to marketing and to what your citizens want here in the city. So I really encourage you to look at that section of the blueprint. Number 6 talks about arts education. This really is pointed directly at arts organizations and what we can do to continue to strengthen arts education in our schools. We have a very, very strong arts education program at the West Valley Arts Council. We're working directly in the districts to strengthen arts education internally in the districts, working with administrators and our educators directly, which is a very unique project, by the way. We're being recognized nationally for that program, and it's being looked at as a national model. So we've presented that last year at our Americans for the Arts Conference, and we're presenting it again this year at the National Americans for the Arts Conference as an update on the progress that we've made. And incidentally, I just wanted to point out that Bobby Ann and I co-presented at the Americans for the Arts Conference this past summer, which is kind of ironic that we're both here too. Priority 7. Is about community design and space. Another very strong negative was how West Valley residents feel about our built environment. They're not excited about the new development and what it looks like, and people think that everything looks the same, and people get lost because they think every street corner looks the same. So this is really a message to the cities to talk about zoning and really looking, and I know the city of Goodyear has been very conscientious about zoning and design and being very demanding, and I encourage you to continue to do that. It's only going to benefit all of us. And then 8 talks about how all of this is going to happen, and essentially the West Valley Arts Council Board has very much embraced this blueprint as our responsibility to ensure that it does get implemented over the course of the next 5 years, 10 years. So next steps, what the cities can do, and I only pulled out specifically things that the cities could do specifically. Endorse and use this blueprint as a tool for cultural development. When cities know of new arts organizations and artists, inform us so that we can add them to our cultural inventory. The blueprint calls for keeping a cultural inventory. We're already doing that through our arts member program. We track artists and arts organizations and anybody that provides arts kinds of activities to the West Valley. If people, we really do want to keep this database and increase this database because we communicate with those people and call meetings. So this is really the only way that all of us as an industry can get together and do this. Use the market research to better provide what your residents want to see and participate in. Provide funding to us. This is one of the things that I would really like to do. So that we can create an incubator arts organization fund, essentially. I'm talking to each one of the cities. I haven't formally presented this as a request, and I see this over and above what we get annually, but I'd really like to see all the cities provide a chunk of money to a fund that we could use then to incubate a new community theater program or a new dance company or a new arts school or whatever it might happen to be, because there's nothing like that that exists. And if we really are going to grow our inventory, we need that kind of a fund. So that's just my little commercial on that, and I'll...
That would be like seed money?
Like
Kinda
seed money,
angel
exactly.
investing type of-
So they could
Okay.
create a 501c3, so they could then go out and get donations and be, stand on their own. Because it takes money to create a 501c3 and put all that together. So, and the Arts Commission doesn't provide that money, so this would be something that we could do for the West Valley. Explore the feasibility of creating artist live workspace in your city. This is something that I've talked with some of the developers in the city of Goodyear that are working in the city of Goodyear about as a possibility in the future. Allow existing arts organizations ease of access to city cable access channels, websites, newsletters, etc. I think if all of our cities would allow all of the arts organizations, no matter where they're located, to promote our events on your websites, we're all going to benefit, because people don't just attend things in the city of Goodyear if you're a Goodyear resident. You also attend things in Avondale and Glendale and Wickenburg and you name it. So I think if we could all coordinate that awareness and that marketing, I think we'd all benefit, and we'd all be better for it. Include information from the blueprint in your city's quality of life policy, essentially a statement endorsing it. Use this opportunity to partner with other cities and developments to gain access to programming you can't achieve on your own. Again, this is about partnering. Look to arts providers as partners in your development agendas. Use us. We're here. We have the experts on our staff. We know how to do this. We know how to create facilities. We know how to create programming. We know what people are responding to. So please use us as an access and as information anytime you want. Look at various funding mechanisms to increase support for arts and culture. Talked about that. Work with cultural providers to create satellite locations within cities. This is something that I see, especially with hopefully the development of the Performing Arts Center in the city. That'll give an opportunity to the ballet, the opera, the symphony to create a satellite location, maybe even some of the other museum-type organizations in the downtown area. Create seasonal themes just to create another way to build awareness on events. Offer incentives for all audience development, encourage excellent design standards in all new developments, and consider creating an arts district in your city. And what we will do, obviously we're committed to strengthening the cultural delivery system in the West Valley by bringing together the arts organizations and the artists through our arts member program to work together, and continuing to build trust between the cities and the arts providers, and between the arts providers as well. When we started this project, the arts providers really did not work together very well or communicate very well, and we're now in the process of working together to hopefully create a West Valley Fringe Festival that would happen in 2010, and we've just begun discussions on that, which I think could be a lot of fun, and would also be something that we would want all the cities to participate in, and some of your folks have attended our initial meetings on that. Track and report blueprint progress yearly. We'll be back yearly to tell you where we're at, and repositioning the Arts Council to lead implementation of the blueprint, which I've already talked about. And then just contact information. If anybody in the audience knows of an arts organization or artist, they can contact me and let me know. Get them on our list. Do you have any questions?
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Questions for Julie?
Not about this specifically, Julie, but you started this off by giving you a commercial on the Big Read.
Yes.
Plan. Did you by some chance bring any type of data with you that would tell us a little bit more about the meetings and things other than what we've
You mean the calendar of Big Read events? No, but if you go to www.westvalleyarts.org,
it'll be right there.
You can link right to our schedule on the Big Read website, and it'll list everything that's going on in the whole valley. This is ended up being a valley-wide event. We've got events going on in Gilbert, in Mesa, in Chandler, in downtown, as well as all over the West Valley. So it's really just exploded, this project. It's been really fun.
Great.
Yeah.
And I'll look forward to hearing your yearly report on the blueprint.
Awesome. Great.
Thank you.
Mr. Cavalier?
Yeah, I
Questions?
appreciate you coming tonight, Julie, and agree with everything you said. I think it's great.
Thank you very much. I
Go for it.
appreciate it.
Question?
Julie, I'm a little bit confused here. That's here, the following cities participated financially, and it names many of the communities that have withdrawn funds from West Valley Arts. And yet they're contributing $10,000 now toward this program that you're talking about?
What are you referring to?
The $10,000 that we contributed back in '05 to this study.
Yes, this was, the funding that I was talking about was for the study specifically. Mhm.
Not asking, they're not requesting money from us.
No, I'm not requesting anything tonight.
I'm sorry, okay.
No,
You read that as a request.
Yes, I-
no,
Yeah.
no,
Okay.
not tonight.
Commercial.
Let's just clarify.
Was I able to throw water on that fire, Mr. Sousa? Any other questions? No other questions?
Sorry to put out.
Julie, you talked about in your presentation about asking, I noticed on your first next steps, it was endorse and use this blueprint as a tool for cultural development. So are you looking for specific action from councils to endorse the work that you did?
I think it would be wonderful if if you would just formally, say we endorse this or, vote on it at your next meeting or whatever you want to do. It's up to you.
I have an idea. I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but it seems to me that our new Arts and Cultural Commission ought to get a presentation that's very similar to this, bring them up to speed on the blueprint, and look to them
Excellent.
for a recommendation as to how we look at the blueprint. I'm looking at Lily in the background, because I know you're staffing that group, but does everybody else think
good
along the
idea.
same lines?
No, I
And then
think that's
that
a
way
great
maybe we
idea.
can
That's a great idea.
get both our
Mm-hmm.
new Arts and Culture Commission, which
Great
you have a
idea.
staff member
Yes,
that's an
we do.
ex officio member of, that
First assignment.
can make it one of their first assignments. I'm sure they have many assignments.
They should be aware of this anyway. So, and some of them already are because they're associated with our organization. But that would be great.
No, I think that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
and then I'm going to pass this along to staff tonight, but it probably wouldn't hurt for us to maybe get a photocopy of the executive summary. It's quite a large book to
You do
take
have
home.
that. I
Oh, we
put
do?
it in front of you. It's
I missed that.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's up here in some of the paperwork that is underneath. Okay, so we've got a copy of the executive summary.
Yes.
Well, fantastic. So we'll look to our Arts and Culture Commission to give us a report back on what they think in terms of the implementation and
That'd be great.
Otherwise. So, great. Thank
Thank
you
you.
again for all your work in the West Valley and your presentation this evening.
Thank
You always
you.
manage to pack in a lot into a short presentation. So
This is like my fifth one, so I have it.
you've got it now.
You got it.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate coming here tonight.
Right on. Thank you, Julie. Information items. Is there any reports from council on current events?
Oh, I just had one.
Yes.
Last Thursday, the mayor and I participated in a panel discussion on education, and the mayor was able to talk about the status of the universities and that type of thing. And I tried to concentrate on the folks that were coming out of the university and how we use them in a corporate environment and some of the areas that need to be fixed so that we can get more bang for our buck.
Frank? Anything? No? Okay.
Well, we should keep in mind the GAIN event.
So many things happening.
That's right. GAIN event on the 20th, starting at 5 o'clock out at the community park and ending at 8. And so go on out there. Joanne? No? I will report one thing since I was under the city dime traveling. It was a very cheap trip assisted by the Air Force. I went on another Air Force trip this last Thursday and Friday. We started out Thursday morning at 7 a.m. Well, I think it was earlier than that. Good military waking me up very, very early. Thursday morning, we met out at Luke Air Force Base. We're briefed on Luke Air Force Base's mission. We traveled down to Gila Bend and Barium Goldwater Range and got to and some of the staff I think that have been in West Valley leadership have gone on a similar day tour down to BMGR and got to see what our men and women in the Air Force do in terms of bombing and strafing from F-16s and A-10s. And it just amazes me that these guys, and they were using practice bombs, 25-pound charges, and dropping them from 15,000 feet and hitting a target that was about the same size as it just amazed me. And just on a glide ratio, no rockets behind it or anything. And then the A-10s, similar function on their part. Then we traveled over to the Gila Bend Oxfield, got a briefing on all the archaeological, what's the word I'm looking for? Archaeological inventory that is down there on the range, and what a prized possession that is for not only the heritage of the communities that lived down there 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. I didn't know until last Thursday that mammoths were once hunted down there in the region. They haven't found one, but they've got evidence that show that they were. Then Thursday evening, we headed over to Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. We met with the DM-50, which is similar to our Fighter Country Partnership. We had dinner with them at the Pima Air and Space Museum and heard about their issues and how they're advocating for Davis-Monthan Air Force Base down in the Tucson area and how we can do, just kind of trading best practices. And then played an Air Force game of Crud, which I have many bruises to show for. It's a pool table game. You have to be there and stay away from it if you are ever invited. And then on Friday, we continued our tour at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. We had stayed the night there, heard about their mission and what they do on a daily basis and how they serve our country down there, and then toured the, I'm not going to tell you the military acronym, but otherwise known as the Boneyard, which is where all our airplanes go for rehab and storage and that sort of thing. So it was an eye-opening experience. I'll tell you, I never realized, you always hear about 15,000 military men and women working in Arizona, but until you travel, until you look at these bases and you get on these bases and realize that they're little cities and communities unto themselves, I have a whole new appreciation for what our Air Force does. And then we have, Yuma and the Marine Corps and the Navy down in Yuma. I can only imagine all of that working together. So it was a cool trip. And if you have the opportunity to do so, if you're interested in future trips like that, I would urge you to contact Rusty Mitchell and let him know. He's in the Community Affairs Office at Luke Air Force Base, and they tend to put together those invites. But if you haven't had an opportunity to do that, look for those civic leader opportunities. This time, I tagged along with Fighter Country Partnership. There was about 30 or 40 civic leaders from the West Valley going down there. So it's very, very eye-opening. So that said, I believe the mayor's out of town until Friday on city business, Brownsfield conference, and then an economic development opportunity. So we'll see what he has to report back to us next week. And I believe Councilmember Lord gets back into town on Saturday and Sunday. So if anybody's looking for her, catch her on her cell phone. That's it for me. Report from you, sir.
Mr. Vice Mayor and Council, a couple of follow-up items. Just we will get you slide copies of the presentation on East Las Vegas Cultural Center. We will also set up an opportunity for you to tour the plant at Palo Verde, and along with getting you information on when they're going to have their public meetings that are held by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So we'll get you those dates. Another follow-up item is we will assign the blueprint of the Arts Commission to the Arts Commission for recommendation back to council. So no action taken by, no direction for our council to take action at this point. As it relates to a couple of updates, one is have good news. The Cancer Treatment Center of America looks to be closing tomorrow, if not the day after. So it's there. They finalized agreements with the landowner. And the other, just to augment what was said about the GAIN event, it is the first time we've had this as a centralized event. It will be at Thomas and Litchfield Road, just north of there at our community park. And there's a Taste of Goodyear that's part of that. So we will have folks there that are representing their food that the public will be able to partake in. I'm sure there'll be all types of cuisine there for your, something has to work for you as far as that taste. Mr. Vice Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you.
What time does that start?
5 o'clock, and it goes until 8 o'clock.
5 to 8. 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
No, 5 in the morning.
That would be in the p.m. And it's still 4 to 2. I just got an update. It's still 4 to 2 Cleveland over Boston.
Okay.
Inning?
8.
Okay.
All right. We're holding.
Good deal. Any inquiries for staff? No, Brian, I just appreciate all your efforts last several weeks and months. I know your staff's been hopping around a lot, so
They've been
we
phenomenal.
wrapped up some big items in the last several weeks. Appreciate everybody's effort and late hours. So, with that, meeting's adjourned.